Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Today we're taking a second look at the brand new Necro set, the Masquerade of the Burning Carnival. Now the set has been tweaked ever so slightly in that the simulacrums will now warp to your character. None of the numbers on the set have changed, which is a little disappointing because we were hoping it was going to get a bit of juice. There is still one more patch before live, so there is still a chance that these things will go up. It's definitely not going to go down. But we have got a really fast speed build, so we can run around really fast, fire out loads of really cool ice missiles basically. We can get ourselves up to kind of 94, 95 in about 4 minutes, which isn't the fastest thing in the world, but it is still pretty decent. So we'll have a little bit of footage from that in the background. We're also going to show a different build, which is kind of just an item swap, and that will do kind of 89-90, but a little bit quicker because we use the Stuart Screeves. But we'll jump in and we'll do the higher clearing version first, and then talk about the item swap, because that's literally it. All the skills are exactly the same. Before we do though, if you are new to the channel, do consider subscribing. I've got some more Necro videos on the way, some more Demon Hunter stuff, and then we'll start with probably some starter guides for Season 21. So looking at the two-piece of the Masquerade of the Burning Carnival, simulacrums no longer take damage, which is great. They gain all the runes, which is pretty nice. We'll go through those in a minute. And its cooldown is refreshed when you die. So if you cark it, you just need to activate the simulacrums again and they're back up. Now, we get quite a lot of really cool runes here, so it doesn't matter which one on the bar we pick, but they are fairly interesting. So, Cursed Form, this gives us all 3 curses. So we're going to take Frailty, Aura of Frailty, just because it'll cut stuff off at 15% life, so once you get them below that 15% they die. The Aura means that we don't have to spend any essence on it, which is great because Bone Spear is a little thirsty. It just makes it very lazy. Now we also get the Base Decrepify, so if something does get close to us, then it's going to deal 30% less damage and also have its move speed reduced. And Leech is just a little bit of sustain, but the main curse that we've got is Frailty, but we do get these other 2 completely for free with the Cursed Form rune. And Reservoir is really important as well. This will give us double essence. That's very handy because Bone Spear does cost quite a bit of essence with one of the multipliers that we've got. Self-sacrifice is kind of like a cheat death, kind of not, because of the way the 4-piece works, which we'll go through after this. We get damage reduction based on simulacrums. If they die, then that damage reduction drops. There's no kind of indicator on the bar. We don't get any kind of message that they've died, so it's highly likely you won't notice and you'll just die anyway. But Final Service will now proc before this, so you'll probably proc your cheat death, then your simulacrum will disappear and then you'll die pretty much instantly. But in theory, if you do notice they're missing, you can recast them and that will buy you an extra cheat death essentially. Blood Depth we're not going to be using at all. We did use it in the last build that we showed with the Blood Spears. Just basically means you can pick blood skills and you don't have to spend quite as high life cost. But Blood and Bone is very important. This gives us 2 simulacrum, which is pretty nice. So when we pop the ability, we get 2 people cloning out of us, which does work into the 4-piece. So the 4-piece, whilst we have simulacrum, damage is reduced by 50%. Now, initially it looked like that meant our character was doing less, 50% less damage. That's kind of how SVR put it when he was streaming. I thought it meant the same. Turns out it doesn't. It is just straight up damage reduction. So we get a 50% on the 4-piece as a flat thing. Then we get damage is split between us and our simulacrum. Now, because we've got 2 of them, what that means is that 2/3 of the damage after 50% goes to them. So we get half damage from the 4-piece. Out of that half damage we now would take, 2/3 of it goes to the simulacrum and only 1/3 goes to us. So that's why we can kind of speed up to like 94 and not really have any toughness issues. It's a very tanky set and that's obviously pretty good. 6-piece, nice and simple. Bone Spear deals 10,000% increased damage, with simulacrums doing 30,000%. So we need to start using Bone Spear to get as much damage as we can. Scythe of the Cycle seems the natural choice. It's a high modifier of 400%. We have to have bone armor on the bar and active, and every kind of time we chuck a spear out, we're going to reduce bone armor duration by 4 seconds. You need to keep an eye on this. You will chuck out loads of spears, and this, your bone armor can drop pretty easily, so you just need to recast it again. In a cube, we're still going to take the Maltorius Petrified Spike. This is a 700% modifier on the Bone Spear, pretty nice. It ups the essence cost from 20 to 40, which is why it is a little bit thirsty. Now normally with any kind of necro build, your issue is always going to be, how do I proc my Crispins? So it's got a first part which is double damage against slowed enemies, and then triple the effect, so 300% against any other CC. So you're looking to get off freeze or stun. Now we're going to take the cold rune on the Bone Spear, so crystallization, so all the spears will be cold. What we're going to do is we're going to pair that with the Frostburn gloves in the cube, and this gives a 50-50 chance to freeze. So whenever a Bone Spear hits something, 50-50, it's going to be frozen for 1 second. Now that will allow you to get another Bone Spear into them and insta-melt them. Now in terms of cold, we're also going to pick the cold rune on the bone armor. Again, it gives the 50-50 chance to freeze. The reason we go for this over the normal poison choice of dislocation is just for the move speed. I just want to move quicker. You can swap it back to dislocation if you'd like. I just like the extra 10% run speed. Now in terms of other modifiers, we're going to take Bane of the Trapped, so flat damage against anything other than Juggernaut, because we will be getting off a decent amount of CCs with the cold spears on the Frostburns. We're going to take a Xystone of Vengeance because we're going to chuck out the missiles and then leg after them really fast, so the further away we are when we cast them, the more damage they're going to do. Just a modifier, this could easily be swapped out for say a Gogok of Swiftness for a bit more attack speed and cooldown. But I just found that it seems to make a bit of sense. We do damage at any kind of distance, and we also do damage close up because of the Bane of the Trapped aura, so it just kind of works, you know, it's just more damage either which way you slice it. And then finally a Bane of the Powerful also gives us a bit more damage, so more against elites, more damage reduction and all that kind of stuff. Conventional Elements is here for spike damage. When we get to cold, we can dump out damage. Important for the Rift Guardian, you want to make sure you have an entire cold cycle to go through, because we have no generator on this build, so you can in theory run out of essence. You just need to make sure on the Rift Guardian that you do pop a load of Bone Spears through cold and you should be fine. Now also reworked in 269 has been the Haunted Visions. The simulacrums drain 1% of our life. You don't need to worry about it, it's not much of a negative effect at all, but they do last forever, which is why these guys are still kicking about here, even though we activated them at the start of the video. Now we're going to tie in the Crimson set. This really is here for resource cost reduction because it helps chuck out more Bone Spears. More Bone Spears is more damage, and also the extra cooldown just means more damage as well. So 2-piece 20% CDR, 20% RCR, 3-piece more cooldown is more damage, more resource cost reduction is more toughness. Now that means we can take cooldown gem in helm, it means you can take cooldown roll on gloves and shoulders, and it just basically means more damage basically. Now we've got the Lost Time Offhand. This again is here simply for move speed, so cold skills will reduce move speed, so procs the initial part of Crispin's and also Bane of the Trapped, so we can still get Crispin's initial proc at range even if we don't freeze. But we also get this increasing move speed effect, 10% for 5 seconds, stacking 5 times to 50% move speed. So even without the Stewart's Greaves, we've got a nice 10% move speed here, nice 50% move speed here, so we're kind of moving fairly fast anyway. Now let's see what else. Nems is just going to help with progression, so spawning more elites and champions, just, you know, really handy. And then we've got a Rogue in the cube to make up all of the set bonuses. Now one thing that the simulacrums benefit from tremendously is area damage, because they both actually, when they fire Bone Spears, do benefit from area damage the same as we do. Now what that means is you get 3 lots of area damage, so that is a pretty good stat to take. So I've got it on my gloves, I've got it on my weapon, I've got it on my offhand and also shoulder, so I've got quite a lot of area damage, so any kind of density will get absolutely melted, because if you get a Frostburn proc, a freeze, hit something with a Bone Spear, then, you know, maybe there's a whole area that you can absolutely blow up, and it does work pretty nice. So let's have a quick look see through the skills. Bone Spear crystallization, we've talked about that, that's absolutely fine. It does come with a stacking attack speed buff, which is really nice. That means you can spit out more spears, so that is pretty good. It stacks up to, I think, 30% attack speed, which is pretty good. Simulacrum, any rune is fine. Bone armor we've covered. Devour Voracious, I numlock this at the start of the Rift. This does feed in with the Crimsons very well, because what it does is it reduces all essence cost by 2%. for 5 seconds when you consume a corpse. Now it does stack pretty high, so you can get this up to 25 stacks, which is 50% RCR. Great for throwing out loads more bone spears, but also remember the Captain Crimson's more resource cost reduction is toughness, so it's another really big layer. Now 5 seconds isn't a huge amount of time, so it will kind of like wax and wane and drop off sometimes if you go through an area without any mobs. Sometimes on the Rift Guardian it can completely drop off, but it's still fine. We can melt the Rift Guardian pretty quickly, but that's how that works. You could swap that rune out, but I just find I want to have no resource problems because, as I say, there's no generator on the build. I want to be able to spam bone spears without too much worry. And then lastly, we've gone for Blood Rush with the potency rune just to beef up the armor, so whenever we do teleport we get 100% armor for 2 seconds, which is pretty good. Passives, Final Service in case something goes wrong. Dark Reaping is our main way of getting essence back, as well as the Devours. So killing enemies drops corpses, we devour them up, we get essence from kills anyway. The life per kill is pretty nice as well, again that will help us with sustain. Standalone, we would get 100% armor, we've got to take 20% off because we've got 2 active minions, but still 80% armor is a pretty nice passive. And Fueled by Death gives us another 30% move speed, which does keep us pretty nice. Now in terms of going a little not quite as far with the build but making it quicker is this setup here. So we take off the Crimsons, we work in a Dainty's Binding because the Aura of Frailty will give us a 50% damage reduction, and then we can pop in the Stewart's Greaves in the cube or on the character, and obviously Frostburns is either going in the cube or the character. What this basically means is that we lose the modifier from the Crimson, so we don't hit quite as hard. We also lose the resource cost reduction, so the bone spears do cost a little extra, but obviously when we teleport we get ourselves another 100% move speed, and obviously that can make the rifts pretty quick. So I'd say probably with around the kind of 15-16k main stat, we can do 88, 89 with the Stewart's Greaves, and then we want to jump up to 94s, and around about that we're going with the Crimsons. And that's kind of how it works. Now, it is a lot of fun to play. It's really good on any kind of corridor map, just lashing these bone spears out. As I say, cold missiles essentially that whiz down the corridor, and it does work pretty well. I'd say the most difficult map is probably the Corvus tile set, because you've got lots of walls. You still can get separated from your simulacrum pretty easy, and they can actually still attack walls and do silly things like that, which is a bit annoying. But all in all, I think the set is in a decent spot. I think if we could maybe get it more in line with the Demon Hunter Gears of Dreadlands, because like where we can do say 94 in about 4 minutes here, I think with the Demon Hunter set you could probably do about 105 in 4 minutes with a similar kind of spec. And obviously it would be nice if they were kind of on parity, so maybe another doubling of damage somewhere. Maybe we work in Bone Spear deals 100% extra damage on the 2-piece. That would be pretty good. Another way to help with the set would also be to add some resource cost reduction, because I can't really see a push build working too well with this, because you will just run out of essence on your Bone Spear, so you'd have to take a generator, and that might feel a little clunky. Now I have also cleared over 100 in not too much time, going for like an area damage type setup. So the way this one works is you take Brig's Wrath, and Wadijo did a very good video on this. The idea is that you activate your curse manually. So let's say you pop it here, it sucks all the enemies into the cursed location, and then because the simulacrum and us all benefit from area damage, if you can build up a good bit of density, you can kind of insta melt it. Again, not very good for the Rift Guardian because it's generally going to be single target, but there is something we can do. So again, generator in here just for when you run out of essence on the Rift Guardian, because you just can't kill the 100 Rift Guardian with the Bone Spear, it's just not powerful enough. So yeah, some resource cost reduction would be interesting, but this would be maybe a kind of push spec. You know, maybe there's something that can be worked on a little bit more. But at the moment, that's how it plays on PTR. It is quite nice to do Bone Spear. It is a little bit different, and it's good that we've got some really good 90-95 speed options for the Necro this season. So hopefully speaking, the set gets a little bit of a jump up, and if it does, maybe we'll come back and look at this again. Maybe we'll do it on season, not too sure. But that's all for today, guys. I'll be back with some more season 21 build-up material just as soon as I can. I hope you're all staying safe, and I'll see you soon. Take it easy. Peace.